So the first thing that I want to do is apologize for this whole get-up. I've looked like this since we got out of school. So that's just a little disclaimer. So I'm gonna start with Act 1 and basically just go in like chronological order. So Scene 1, Act 1 kind of starts out with three witches. They're kind of speaking really ominously. And they talk about having their next meeting in like thunder, lightning, and rain. And I took that and kind of made a connection. I don't know if you've ever seen Twilight movies, but I kind of made a connection like maybe they want to have their meeting there because, or like in that kind of setting, because like in the first Twilight movie they play baseball during thunderstorms because it hides the sound, so maybe they're trying to like speak discreetly. I'm not really sure. We did learn a new word. Hurly-burly is like a noisy disorder or like confusion. I was thinking like it's commotion. So they're talking about the battle has been lost and won, so when everything kind of calms back down, and that's when they want to have their next meeting. They did resolve their meeting really, really quickly. They decided that they were gonna, like, that the battle was gonna be over within the next day, and that's what they were gonna do. I'm gonna butcher this. Gray Malkin and Paddock, I didn't know if those were like code names or if those were like their leaders. They're really just addressed as witches 1, 2, and 3. One of the last things that they say is they talk about how fair is foul and foul is fair. So I was wondering if they were kind of like the separation between right and wrong. I know later on in the play, Macbeth talks about how their presence is neither good nor bad, so that kind of comes full circle. So I'm gonna move on to Scene 2. We learn that the war has already begun. It opens up with a bleeding soldier from the war, and they're like in a military base. I kind of danced around thoughts of if the bleeding soldier was in trouble or not. I couldn't really tell like which side he was from the way they were talking. They did end up giving him a name. They named him MacDonald. And I, after a while, kind of concluded that they were against him, and Macbeth was the one who kind of caused his injuries. And they start praising Macbeth. I'm going to move on to Scene 3. So the witches have returned, which confirms that the battle is over. They return to have another meeting. I couldn't really conclude if they were bad or not. And I know that kind of sounds weird, because I'm sure they are one way or the other. Because the witch number 2 was off killing pigs, and then the first one definitely has her hand in the course of the war. She's definitely changing weather patterns and stuff. I was wondering who the woman's husband was, whose voyage they were kind of sabotaging. They said that they couldn't really destroy his ship, but they could make like the weather around him unbearable. And I was just wondering like who he was. They talked about how there was like a captain who died and they took his thumb. So I was kind of wondering like if all of this was for like a spell or something, because they have like dead pigs and this guy's thumb. I'm not really sure. I don't know if any of that's connected or not. But I mean, it could be for a good cause. I was wondering, while I was taking notes, apparently, if they work for Macbeth. They talk a lot about him and like they praise him. And I was wondering if like the charm that they were making, that they talk about, one of the last things that they talk about together, if it was for Macbeth, if that was like the purpose. Macbeth kind of enters and he talks about like the end of the war and how it was a good and bad day. And then he kind of confirms that the witches don't work for him because he doesn't know who they are, and I'm gonna butcher this too. Banquo just kind of puts himself out there and asks them like who they are and what they want and what they're doing. The witches tell Macbeth of his future, that he is going to be the Thane of Didn't write that down. He is going to be the Thane of, oh, I'm gonna butcher this too, Cawdor. And they tell Banquo that he is also going to be of some high standing, and that all of their descendants are going to be like the sons of kings, so they definitely think that they're both gonna become kings. The witches tell them that they're both gonna be kings, but not at the same time, so I was kind of thinking that maybe one of them is king first, and then the other one dies, and one of them takes over. The men come and they reward Macbeth for his unwavering bravery by the king. Macbeth discusses that he has had, when they tell him of his future, Macbeth is rewarded the title of the Thane of Cawdor, and they find out that the Thane of Cawdor currently is being killed for his acts of treason, and he kind of starts to express his feelings toward the king. The witches tell him that he is going to soon overthrow the king, so he kind of starts having murderous thoughts. Then the men come to reward him or give him their thanks from the king and take him back so the king can thank him himself. And I was kind of wondering, like, does the king already know that, like, of this future? Like, have the witches visited him? I wasn't really sure. Banquo kind of questions the goodness or I don't even know, like the genuineness of the witches. Macbeth has definitely gotten what the witches have told him, but Banquo is kind of standoffish and he's not really sure about it yet. I mean, he kind of thinks it's a double-edged sword. Macbeth kind of continues to have his murderous thoughts about the king, but he decides that he's just going to trust in fate, and if whatever fate decides, if he kills him or doesn't, that's destiny. So then they leave to go see King Duncan, and I was kind of wondering, like, is this when Macbeth is going to go through and murder him, or is that what fate has decided? So I'm going to move on to scene 4, where they go and they meet with King Duncan. King Duncan, the scene opens up. He is informed that the former Thane of Cawdor has confessed to his acts of treason and was executed, and the king kind of expresses his feelings of betrayal. He talks about how a man can look at you in the face and you won't even ever know his true colors or true intentions, and he just feels really betrayed because he trusted him. And I was kind of wondering if this was, like, foreshadowing Macbeth's betrayal, because he's gonna, like, thank him, and he's done all these great things for King Duncan, and King Duncan is just praises Macbeth. And I was wondering if that was kind of gonna be, like, the same kind of situation. King Duncan kind of tells both Macbeth and Banquo that he will forever be indebted to them, and there's nothing he could ever do to pay back what they did for him. And Macbeth kind of seems to be not insensitive, but kind of conniving, because he's like, oh, I did it all for you, everything is gonna be for you, I wouldn't want to serve anyone else. And it just kind of seems like he's gonna backdoor him in some way, because he is having these murderous thoughts, and he does know that he will eventually be king, and he seems to kind of want to speed up the process a little bit. Macbeth has more murderous thoughts about Malcolm's position. He definitely wants that as well, like his position. And I kind of was wondering if Macbeth was always this way, or was it the witch's charm that they talked about in the end of Act 2. And then King Duncan basically tells Banquo that he's not as good as Macbeth and there is no one equal to him. And so that was kind of like, wow. So definitely wondering, I really feel like somebody's about to die. And I could be way off base, but somebody is going to die. that's pretty much all I got. This whole break has been pretty interesting. I'm not doing well. It's been really hard for me to be motivated to do anything. I definitely am starting to feel really cramped, and like I've been taking every opportunity to leave while I still can, even like little trips to the gas station. It has been ridiculous. I've decided to graduate a year early, so this is kind of like my junior year of track, and so I'm kind of sad that I had to miss out on that. Can't go to work because we are no longer at Culver's in Lebanon, because we are no longer doing carry-out orders, so they don't need any more cashiers. So basically got laid off. Can't go to practice. Can't leave the house. Can't see my friends. It's been kind of rough. But yeah, I'm glad to hear that you are still being active. I am definitely going to like take a page out of your book and see this more positively, and try to get outside more and be more active, because that is something that always makes me feel better. So yeah, that's all I got. I hope this wasn't too long. And sorry I submitted this kind of late. Enjoy the rest of your night.